Hello and welcome to Budget Astro. My name is Cody Brown and welcome to How to Photograph the Moon, Beginner to Advanced. The moon is undoubtedly the most imaged astrophotography object in the night sky. There are hundreds of different ways to take pictures of the moon. Although none of them are wrong, I'm going to show you several ways to improve your images and get more detail and life out of your moon photos. From just using a DSLR and a tripod, all the way up to using a star tracker, telescope, and astronomy camera to greatly improve the images. Let's get started. Alright, first up on the chopping block is my Canon T6 with a 75 to 300 millimeter lens. I have it stopped down to f8 and I will be using remote live view so you guys can see what's going on inside the camera when I'm using it. Alright, now we can see the moon in the frame. Let's lower the exposure time until we can start seeing some sort of detail so we can, there we are. We're going to have this on manual focus. Let's zoom in a little bit so we can make sure that we have focus. Focus. And turn off autofocus and keep it manual so we don't shift it at all. Now let's get the moon as centered in the frame as possible before we start shooting. There we go. Okay. Now we're going to take a single exposure. Not a bad shot, but certainly not what you would hope to expect, especially with all the images you see online. And this is where stacking comes into play. We're going to take close to 100 photos of the moon, just like this, and then in post-processing we're going to stack them together to reduce noise and bring out detail and life out of the moon. Alright, now that we've taken all the exposures, if this was all I was doing tonight, I'd be heading inside to throw them into the computer and start editing. Let's move on. Alright, for this camera configuration I can no longer use live view to show you guys what I'm doing, but it's essentially the same process. I'm going to use manual mode, shorten down the exposure time, and get really good focus on the moon, and take roughly 100 shots. Alright, I got the camera all set up. I'm going to take one exposure and show you real quick. That exposure, I'm sure it looks pretty good. Let's see how it looks after stacking. I'm going to go ahead and take roughly 100 photos, and I'll be right back with you guys. Alright, all 100 photos, roughly here or there, are taken. So let's move on to the next scope. Alright, now that she's polar aligned and set up, this is my big scope. This is a 114mm aperture by 1000mm cardiographic reflector telescope with my ZWO 178 MC Cool on it. Now this camera does not actually take pictures, or at least I'm not going to be taking pictures with it. I'm going to be taking video. Now I'm going to be showing you the process of taking the images of the moon with this telescope, but I'm not going to show you how I'm processing them because I already have a video up on my YouTube channel right up here to show you how that's done. Alright, and just like that, imaging's done. Now let's see what the DSLR camera can do with this telescope. Alright, I got the DSLR camera all hooked up, focused in, and exposure time set. I'm going to take a quick single image to show you guys that, and then we're going to take a couple more images, probably 50, close to 100, and see what we get. There's a single image. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the rest. Alright, that's going to do it for the imaging session. I'm going to take all this data, put it on my computer, and we'll get on to processing it. Alright, I took yesterday to kind of rest after basically staying up all night with very few hours of sleep. So, we're in PIPP, which is our first step of processing our lunar photos. This program is free for Windows. I don't know about Mac. I wouldn't know. I don't have a Mac. Anyways, so first thing we're going to want to do is add our image files, and we're going to start with the ones with a 300mm lens. Go here, select all, open. It will say join mode has been selected. That's fine. This little pop-up shows a preview of the first frame. Now we're going to optimize options for solar-lunar full disk. Check our input options. Honestly, we just want to make sure that deburying the image files is selected. Processing, we're going to turn off convert color to monochrome. We're going to keep that off, Now over here, object planetary, enable object detection, make sure that's checked. Use the default settings just fine. Center object in each frame, make sure that's checked, and enable cropping. And for this one, I believe I'm going to want to crop right around 1000 by 1000. We'll test it to make sure. Go ahead and test that. And that looks fine. Got enough space on each side. Actually, let's see what this does. There we go. So it's going to stretch the histogram, bring out a little more light into the photo, making it easier for the next program to run. So that's good there. We are not going to enable quality estimation. We're going to let Autostakkert do that. Output options, we're going to want to go to AVI, uncompressed. We can do it right in the default source directory is fine. I'm going to create a subdirectory. You can name that whatever you want. I just leave it as PIPP. And we're going to start the processing. We'll be back when that's done. Okay, now that's done, opens up this. This right here is a 2-second long AVI file, almost 350 megabytes, which is actually quite large for only being 121 frames long. So we're going to open up our next program, which is Autostakkert 3. Now, if there's new versions out, I suggest you get the new versions because they're always making updates to it. So I'm going to drag the AVI file right into the program, and you see already it pops up. And zoom in a little more so we can see it better. And then here for image stabilization, we're going to go planet with dynamic background. I don't know, I just leave that checked. And first thing we're going to do is analyze. Did it pretty quick because there weren't that many frames. Now you see this quality graph right here. I suggest following this to anything that is above this middle line right here. So for my videos that I do with the other camera, I usually keep it at 50%, but it looks like this graph right here is perfect right above 75%. So I'm going to go over here and change the 50 to 75 frame percentage to stack. Click enter. Now the next thing I'm going to do is place alignment points. And I believe I'm going to want 48. This is a size. I don't know exactly like what the size is. I think it's by pixels. So we're going to place the grid, and you'll see it just automatically populate. And once that's placed, we can go ahead and stack. Because this is only 121 frames, it should go pretty quick, at least on this computer. Your computer may vary. Now that that's done, I can save stack as. I'm going to save it as a TIFF, because I'm going to be bringing it over into Photoshop, and that's a little more high quality image than a PNG. So I'm going to save that, come over here, and I should see that TIFF file. I'm going to preview that and just make sure that there are no weird like graph things or pixelization or any kind of weird stuff going on with it. And I think I see a little bit around the edges. So what I'm going to want to do is actually restack this. So I'm going to clear my alignment points, go down to 24 size, replace the grid, and stack again. Save the stack again, overwrite, go back over here, preview it again, and that already looks much cleaner. Much less pixelization, much less weird artifacts going on. That is perfect. So that is pre-processing done. I'm going to go ahead and do that on all the images before opening up Photoshop to start that series, and I will get back to you guys in a little bit. Alright, I now have all the full disk images pre-processed and ready to go. Now I'm going to show you the close-up images and how I process those. It's basically the same process except for a couple changes with inside PIPP and inside of Autostakkert. So here, they are all already AVI files. I'm going to drag them in all at once. It's going to say it wants to use RGB, that's fine. It shows up here. Now this is truly what one of my frames looks like. Now I'm going to click here, Solar, Lunar, Close-Up. Input options should stay the same, just make sure it's RGB like my camera is. Processing, do not convert to monochrome, and I'm not going to stretch the histogram white point either. I'm going to enable surface feature tracking and surface stabilization. I do want those. Not going to do area of interest, not going to resize frames. And test that, should be fine. We're not Enabling quality estimation. Output, same thing, is going to be AVI. Default directory is fine. Subdirectory, just like before. And it's all AVI raw uncompressed. Now, when doing this, if you do have the same kind of setup and you're running 1,000 frames like I am, this is going to take a long time to do for both PIPP and Autostakkert, and it's going to take up a lot of memory. This right now, before anything, it's already close to 30 gigabytes. When I'm done, it's going to be close to 100 gigabytes. So I'm going to start processing, and I'll see you guys when I'm done. Alright, that took a while on PIPP. Now I'm back in on Autostakkert, and I'm going to show you one of these. And these do take a while for each of them, and I have to do each one of them individually. So I'll start with the first one. Just drag it in here. Now for these, they have to be labeled surface. And go ahead and analyze. And I estimate this will probably take close to 10 minutes for analyzation. So I'm going to go ahead and speed it up and see how long it takes. Okay, now that analyzation's done, that took about as long as I expected it to. I'm going to go ahead and place the AP grid. I'm going to keep it on 104 because of how this is, and I can even zoom in to show you guys what it's actually doing here. And just like that, all the alignments are done. I'm going to go ahead and stack, and then I get to repeat this process 6 times. Alright, while I have Autostakkert running in the background, I'm going to process the 3 other photos, stacked and unstacked versions, and show you guys the difference between the two that I have taken with the DSLR. First up, we have the 300mm. This is the stacked version here, and this is the unstacked, unedited version here. So, when I am processing these moon photos, basically, first thing I want to do is eliminate noise. If you don't have Topaz Labs, they do have a free trial version, or, I mean, it's only 80 bucks anyways, so I don't see why you wouldn't want to get it because it's useful for both astrophotography and regular photography. So I'm going to open this up, and it's going to give a preview. Now, I don't know why it wants to do... Okay, there we go. I'm actually going to pull back some of the sharpness because I want to pull up sharpness in Luminar instead of Denoise. So right now it's saying it only wants to do 2 on the remove noise, which is perfect. That's because of the stacking. It removes basically 90% of all noise in the image. So I'm going to go ahead and click apply. Let that finish up. Now here in adjustments, I'm going to up the vibrance and the saturation levels to see what kind of colors we have. Now, if you're not seeing really any colors, you can keep applying more until we get something. And I think we have the start of some pretty decent color there, but I want to cool down the image, so I'm going to go here into color balance and pull it away from red to cyan and pull it from yellow to blue. And just kind of play with it until it looks like a very cool moon. And now you can see some of the blues, but you still get some of the yellows that are actually supposed to be there. Now this image is already starting to look really good. I'm going to go ahead and flatten the image and bring it over into Luminar AI, which again, if you don't have it, there is a free trial version so you can try it out. And then if you do end up liking it, it's only $80 anyways. Both these I do not want to update. Thank you very much. I will do that later. Basically, you know, these programs are about the same price anyways, so they're not bad. And they have all these templates over here. I don't use them for the moon photos. I come over here into Edit, and then under Tools, I play with Enhance, Structure, and Details. And sometimes Denoise if the denoising wasn't quite enough. So I'm just going to do accent, which you'll see, like, if I bring it all the way over, it's going to lift up the background, and we don't really want it to do that too much. So I'm going to do probably up until about 20. Structure, if I do it full, it's going to, again, bring up the background, and it's just going to look really bad. So I'm probably going to do right around 20 as well, just to get some of that. Basically what it's doing is pulling down the darks and raising the lights to create some sort of contrast. And then in details, this is where you're going to start to see a lot of improvement in the quality of the image. And what I like to do is kind of a ramp from small to large, having like roughly around 30 to 40, 50, 70, and you'll see that the details in the image start to come out a lot. I mean, I could just ramp it all up, but it really starts looking fake, and I don't like that. So if I bring it right around 30, somewhere in the 50s, and right there somewhere around 70, it starts looking really nice, and you can see a lot of details up in the moon. So I'm liking that right there. I'm going to go ahead and click apply. And there we have a very nice shot of the moon starting. I'm just going to do a quick select on the background, and then what I'm actually going to do is mask it. Oops. How about let's do the inverse of that. So select inverse, mask. Now we have that. Create a new layer here, and then just fill it in with a black background. Now that looks so much better than this single image right here. Now don't worry, I'm gonna edit this too and see if we can get anything close to this. So let's start with that. And go over here, brightness, raise it up, adjust some of the contrast a little bit. I'm starting to like that. Let's cool down this image. There we go. There's already a ton of color in this, but again, I'm just gonna up vibrance and saturation. But if you look in here, I don't know if you can see that, how noisy and grainy this is. So let's merge that. Let's go over here to Topaz Labs, same as before, and let's see what it wants. It wants to enhance a lot of the sharpness again and remove noise only on 2, but I think because of how noisy this is, I have to bring that up to about 13, and I do want to reduce some of that sharpness to about right there. Now that's already one stark difference between the two, between the stacked and the unstacked versions. So let's let that finish. Go over here to Skylum, Luminar. And see what kind of detail we can't pull out. Bring up the accent to about 20. I'm trying to do pretty much the exact editing between the two, so we can kind of see the difference between the two images. But already I can tell that I like the other image a lot more. And then I'm going to have to do some denoising up in here again through Luminar. And click apply. And already I'm sorry, but I actually kind of hate this this image right now. Select inverse, mask, create a new layer, and fill that with black, and there we go. Now let's take a look at these two images side by side and let me know in the comments which one you like better, stacked or unstacked. And the stacking process really doesn't take that much longer, as you could tell. The only thing that's taking really long is right now up in Autostakkert. That's I'm only working on the second panel right now. And then I'm going to go ahead and also throw those two images up on the screen full scale for you guys to see them a lot better. Alright, now onto the 400mm images. You see I got stacked, unstacked, and run through the same process. And I'll speed it up, and it's all basically the same process. Okay, now that I finished the 400mm ones, I'm going to show you guys them up on the screen. And oh, wait, hold on. Now I'm not perfect. I completely forgot to mask that out and do the background. So again, on the 400mm telescope, I'm going to put them up on the screen, and you guys can see for yourselves which one you like better. And again, please let me know in the comments below. I'm going to start working on the 1000mm ones. Here's the unstacked version. Here's the stacked version. Already you can tell a big difference between them. This one seems really soft, not really very sharp. This one seems really super sharp in all corners. Looks really great. So I'm going to go ahead and process out the two and show you guys the finished results. Okay, so this one I'm having trouble with the colors inside of Photoshop. So I'm going to come in here and show you that you can play with colors inside of Luminar as well by adjusting temperature right on this slider here inside of light. I'll still have to go back and fix some of that because I'm getting a lot of magenta hues up in here, some weird stuff. Just really not liking that. Actually, yeah, the tint's not even going to do that there. So I'll have to fix that again up inside of Photoshop and kind of pull away some of those weird colors that I'm getting. So here in adjustment layers, I can go to hue and saturation. You can see these magentas right here. I can just pull them back. You'll see them right there. Oh, it's more purples than anything. Go into reds. Let's see what that's doing. Not really. Yellows? No. Blues. Huh, it's quantifying them as blues. That's strange. Okay. Well, anyways, there is the image there. I'm just gonna mask out that background real quick. Create the new layer once again. And there we are. So there are the two, and that one was actually really struggled to process there. And I'll go ahead and throw the large images up on the screen, and once again let me know which one you like better. One more thing I wanted to touch on is that these images right here, starting from the 300, 400, 1000, as you notice, you can start to see more details up in the moon when you let me zoom into this area right here. Although I'm thinking, yeah. So this is really grainy, a little less grainy, almost zero grain right through this section. Now, the reason for this is not only focal length, but the aperture being able to resolve more detail in the moon. The bigger the aperture, the better resolution per picture, or per pixel in the camera.
I really hope that this video was at least of some use to you, and I hope that I taught you something new about shooting the moon. Moon photography can be really easy, it just takes knowledge and know-how. But hopefully with the tools that I've given you and the knowledge that I passed on, you can do better moon photography than you could before. Links to all the programs that I used are going to be in the description below. Until next time, clear skies.